Chapter 1, Segment 1, Sensation and Perception. Sensation is the ability to detect a stimulus and turn it into a private experience. For example, fingers running down one's back is only something they alone can sense or experience. Perception is the act of giving meaning or interpreting a sensation. There is a connection between mental life and sensation and perception. Etienne Bonnot de Condillac used the example of a statue to explain that there can not be sensation or perception without mental life. Method 1. Thresholds. Thresholds are sensations that are measured. For example, how loud you can listen to something without damaging your threshold. Method 2. Scaling. Measuring private experience. Qualia is private conscious experiences of sensation or perception. For example, I may perceive the color red differently than you do. There is no direct way to experience someone else's experiences. Method 3. Signal detection theory. Measuring difficult decisions. Perceptual decision. For example, deciding how to diagnose a patient when you are uncertain of their sickness. Method 4. Sensory neuroscience. Sensory receptors and nerves undergird your perceptual experience. Method 5. Neuroimaging, an image of the mind. Binocular rivalry represents a dissociation of stimuli presented to the eyes and private perceptual experience. Neuroimaging can enable us to see traces of experience in the brain. Thresholds and the dawn of psychophysics. Gustav Fechner and Wilhelm Wundt, founders of experimental psychology. Dualism, idea that the mind is separate from the body and materialistic world. Materialism, the idea that only matter exists and that the mind and consciousness are the results of interaction between bits of matter and the mind is not separate. Panpsychism, the idea that all matter has consciousness. Fechner thought mind and body should be described through math. Psychophysics, the science of defining quantitative relationships between physical and psychological subjective events. 2-point touch threshold, the minimum distance at which two stimuli, simultaneous touches, are just perceptible as separate. Inspired by Ernest Weber, that tested the sense of touch. Just noticeable difference, JND, also known as the difference threshold, the smallest detectable difference between two stimuli. Weber fraction, the constant proportionality in Weber's law. Weber's law, the relationship between stimulus and resulting sensation that says that JND is a constant fraction of the comparison stimulus. Fechner's law, extension of Weber's law, the relationship between stimulus and resulting sensation that says the magnitude of subjective sensation increases proportionally to the logarithm of the stimulus intensity. S equals K log R. S equals psychological sensation. Log R equals the logarithm of the physical stimulus level. K is the constant. Absolute threshold, the minimum amount of stimulation necessary for a person to detect a stimulus 50% of the time. Psychophysical methods, method of constant stimuli. Psychophysical method in which many stimuli are presented at one time. Method of limits, method in which the difference between two stimuli is varied incrementally until the participant responds differently. Method of adjustment, method of limits in which the subject controls the change in the stimulus. Scaling methods, magnitude estimation, method in which participants assigns values according to perceived magnitudes of the stimulus. Stevens' power law, subjective sensation is proportional to the stimulus magnitude raised to an exponent. And that is the end of segment 1.